The Roman Empire reached its height in the 2nd century AD. At this time, it covered 3.5 million square miles. Between 27 BC and 161 AD, it never had to engage in severe wars at separate borders. This period of Roman history is sometimes called the Pax Romana. The structure of the empire meant that the emperor provided a centre and a sense of unity, but client kingdoms and some local autonomy kept local aspects alive. The empire was a vast area, so there was a well-organized postal system and messages system aided by the famous Roman roads. In this period, the definition of Roman changed too, as citizenship was extended to new people. Legionaries in the Roman army had to be Roman citizens. Initially, they were mostly Romans and then Italians, but even their reluctance to serve meant that by 100 AD, only 1 in 5 was Italian. The number of non-Italian senators increased, and eventually even the emperors weren't necessarily born in Rome. Then we have Pertinax, whose father was a slave becoming emperor after the murder of Commodus. Although much of the empire was set by the end of Augustus's reign, we know from last week that Claudius added Britain, waging campaigns from 42 AD. The Emperor Trajan extended the limit of Roman rule by subduing Dacia, which is roughly modern-day Romania, and annexing Arabia, which is bits of modern-day Syria and Jordan. But his successors realized that this big empire was very difficult to maintain, and this begins the period of shrinking in the empire. This is at the same time that the Emperor Hadrian had Hadrian's Wall built to separate Roman Britain from the so-called barbarians to the north. This wall is now close to the border between modern-day England and Scotland. So the Pax Romana lasted for roughly the 1st and 2nd centuries AD. It's sometimes also called the Pax Augusta because the period started with the Emperor Augustus. The Latin word pax, most often translated as peace, can also mean treaty or accord. The legal system unified the empire and kept the peace alongside the military legions. In this period, the internal empire was free from any major upset. But who were on the boundaries? Well, not quite as extreme as this, but it's what your book terms Celts and Germans. I'll flag up a couple of issues with these terms. Firstly, German and Germanic. It makes you think of Germany, right? Well, the culture is a lot more broad than that, as it includes modern-day Germany, Denmark, southern Scandinavia, etc. So, German in the ancient world does not equal German today. Likewise with Celts. There are areas today that we call Celtic, usually Ireland, Scotland, Wales, but also northwest Spain, Brittany and France. Again though, this is a lot less of a geographic area than we are dealing with in the ancient world. Celt in the ancient world does not equal Celt today. In the modern world, we define different peoples by nationality and by country. This did not apply back then. Think about the Romans. By this period, it's not just those born in and living in the city of Rome that call themselves Romans, but it's a broader issue. It's exactly the same for the Germans and the Celts. It is better to think about them as different ethnic and social groups united by similarities in their language and their culture. These are pre-literate and proto-literate societies, so we got our bulk of information about them from archaeology rather than from historical documents.